As the cost of living and grocery prices continue to soar, millions of Canadians continue to turn to food banks for help. In a recent report from Food Banks Canada released in October of 2023 shows food bank usage across the country rose to an all-time high. Right here in Manitoba, it's no different. Food banks across the province continuing to see record demand amidst many challenges as the trends continue to go in the wrong direction. Tonight, we look at why this is and what needs to be done to prevent this from getting worse.
Harvest has seen an increase of folks having to use our food banks. In fact, it's been about 150% since the set of COVID, the pandemic. But year over year, there's been an uptrend of folks needing to access us.
Food bank usage continues to skyrocket across Manitoba as more than 50,000 people went to a food bank in the province every month in 2023, a 30% increase from 2022. Harvest Manitoba released a report in November called Harvest Voices, which highlights the voices of people who access food banks across the province. The report provides statistical data gathered through surveys, which identifies trends in poverty and food security across the province.
Yeah, one other thing that we noticed this year, over last year as well, was that more folks are accessing our food banks are working. So a 66% increase over last year. So about 40% of people who access Harvest have jobs.
Harvest Manitoba supports food security programs within 389 different agency partners in 46 communities across the province. With soup kitchens, school meal programs, and other supports, over 100,000 people use and rely on food banks every month. People access food banks for various reasons and is influenced by many different factors. But post-COVID, Megan Urbis, who's the Director of Network Advocacy and Education at Harvest Manitoba, says there has been one common denominator.
Generally, over the last little while, it's been inflation. So the cost of everything rising, really affecting folks' budgets, being able to make ends meet. During the time in which we were surveying for Harvest Voices, we saw an uptick in displaced Ukrainians. So folks fleeing war from the Ukraine having to access our services where they maybe wouldn't have been in our country before. I think we have no way of knowing when inflation rates are going to change for the consumer. So I think we would anticipate this still being detrimental to folks and increasing food bank use. I think that from Harvest perspective, we're always going to be here. We'll be here to help people as long as we possibly can. It just might change the level of help that we can provide.
Nearly half of the users of Manitoba food banks in 2023 were children. 62% of the respondents in Harvest Voices have children, with nearly half having children under the age of 18. 70% of the respondents indicated they had an annual income between $10,000 and $20,000 a year, which is well below the poverty line in Manitoba. 43% of the respondents say they have a disability or health condition, with majority 77% reporting that their disability or health conditions limit their daily abilities, which includes employment. With rising inflation and soaring grocery prices, 50% of the respondents admit to going hungry at least once a month because they can no longer afford to buy enough food for their family to eat.
It's very concerning. I think it changes what we see as somebody that might access our food bank. I think it makes us consider, what you might have as assets or consider to be of wealth to you as a factor in why you might use a food bank. Often people access our services for a period of time in which they need to use us for whatever reason. They need to pay a bill or something's changed in their life. They might use us for a time and then kind of come off our food bank use. And then we have folks that have used our services for a long time. They have prolonged disabilities. Their income hasn't changed in years and years and years. And then, of course, as I mentioned, folks that are working. So folks that have jobs, but again, costs have risen so much that they're unable to afford and need to access our foods.
Harvest has made 8 different recommendations for all 3 levels of government to fix the food insecurity issue. Some of the recommendations include governments consulting with people with lived experiences in poverty to find long-term solutions, improving settlement programs for newcomers to Canada, increasing social assistance rates to livable level, and fund more social and affordable housing. The Manitoba government has taken the first steps in a universal school nutrition program, announcing they're increasing grant funding given to the Child Nutrition Council of Manitoba from $2.5 million a year to nearly $4 million for the school year.
We're doing something right away. We were just elected right around the same time that you started your school year this year. And so for this school year, we're getting rid of the waiting list. Right now there's kids who are waiting to have a lunch program, just like you have here at St. George. We're going to do that right away. And next fall, when you come back for next school year, there's going to be a meal program right across Manitoba for every kid, because every child matters.
We kind of asked the government to sort of make good on the promises that they're currently making. One of the things that's being implemented currently by the provincial government is a school nutrition program. We asked for that in Harvest Voices, and they're making good on that promise. That will help us with folks that are accessing our services that way, schools, daycares, that kind of thing. Other programs that we asked for the government to look at is our employment and income assistance program, so EIA, also known as welfare, our Canadian disability benefit, and our provincial disability benefits. So finding ways to increase those incomes, no further clawback when other programs are in place, those types of things are really, really important. We're so lucky to have such a giving province. Manitoba's been fantastic, providing us with volunteer time, funds, and food. So just continuing to play on that, asking them for those sort of giving, that giving. And then, of course, we look to our governments, our municipal, our provincial, our federal, to take stock of what we tell them, what's going on in the lives of food bank users, and find ways to help lift them up, find ways to help them not have to keep accessing our services.
Food insecurity impacts 1 in 5 households in Manitoba, and with rising inflation, that number could worsen. With more Manitobans having a hard time making ends meet, it's important to give when possible.
I think it's always hesitance first. Am I deserving to use a food bank? And our response to that would be yes. You know, we want to be here for anybody that needs to access us. And it's always, always in a crisis, mode of crisis. Like, they've used every other resource, debt, savings, ask family and friends for help before they come and access our services, because again, they feel undeserving, but want them to know that we're here for them.
A&W Spicy Piri Piri Buddies are just $3.99 and feature a hot chili pepper sauce that's exploding with flavor. Here for a short time, try it as a chicken, beef, or new potato buddy. Only $3.99 at A&W.
As a business owner, you have a responsibility to give back to your community.
We hire local and we serve local.
Breakfast program, school program for kids.
Seniors bus program, providing transportation to and from the store.
3, 2, 1.
Pop and watch with Orville Redenbacher and Canada's Got Talent. Canada's Got Talent premieres Tuesday, March 19th at 8/7 Central on City TV. Enter for a chance to win at orvillecontest.ca.
How good do you feel when you start your day with Silk? When you fill it up with goodness? Blend it your way. Stir in something perfect. Or enjoy it one sip at a time. You feel plenty good.
Ooh, hi. I'm Charlie McLewis. Finding a good electrician is like finding a pot of gold. Let Expert Electric be your lucky charm and help save you money. Look, Jimmy, we're rich.
Ooh. We're coming for you, Lucky.
This St. Patrick's Day, me clover charms turn milk green.
Where'd he go? We must have made a wrong turn.
Your milk turns green with me special Lucky Charms. They're magically delicious.
You do a lot in a day, and when it comes to laundry, you know to rely on Purex to get it all done. so you can keep being Supermom. Purex works as hard as you do.
It used to be me, she ate at snack time, but now she loves Yogo. Made with real fruit, smooth, creamy, and tasty. All I can say is whoa.
Yogo, snack it up. It just Hut's different. All Pizza Hut favorites, all 50% off. For now. So when the order's up in the air, or your crew can't agree, tell them half is free. For real, what more do you need, pizza-wise? Now that's delivering.
With Harvest feeding thousands of people per month across dozens of communities throughout Manitoba, it's quite the feat logistically to run an operation as big as this one. With 2 warehouses spanning 92,000 square feet here on Winnipeg Avenue in the city's St. James area, trying to meet the needs of so many people per month creates many challenges.
We need a whole community to serve them, to feed the whole community. So we want to thank those who have been able to donate. Not donate just the food, also donate money, donate time here, because that's what makes us grow as community. And to support others, I think is more on organizations as well, thinking about how they can support the community as well.
Wilson Pinato is the Senior Project Manager at Harvest and runs the call center. They are open from 9:15 to 3:15 daily and says the not-for-profit community-based organization is now averaging around 250 calls per day.
Some calls are really short, just give us information. Some others are new clients that they need some more explanation about what to do, how to access our network, all the steps that they need to follow to keep access to food every month. So it is 250 calls, and that's just one way for our clients to contact us.
And the on average 250 calls per day are mostly coming from new clients seeking help.
Most of our clients are existing clients, but nowadays we are seeing the increasing number of new clients. For them also, we have created a system where they can register online, so they don't have to call us. We try to reduce the phone call because we know it's a bottleneck here, and we don't have sometimes the capacity to answer those calls, so that's why we have to use other systems.
With the increasing number of users skyrocketing, it's creating a strain for those working on the front lines.
For staff members, we have around 70. For warehouse operation, it is about 150 per day, 150 volunteers per day. In one of the areas, in client services, we need volunteers, so we run the call center with volunteers. We need about 4 or 5 per day in every shift. And we have 2 or 3 for admin purposes as well, because besides answering the phone, we answer to our clients through email and answering via outbound calls.
Running this massive operation, however, sometimes comes at a cost. There are days where Harvest does not have enough staff to keep up.
It is very challenging, especially winter time. We don't have the same amount of volunteers because of the weather, so our staff has to cover the basics of the operation. And it seems across the organization, in every department, if the volunteers are not here, the staff has to cover all that absenteeism. We do the basics, but still there must be days and we cannot serve our clients the way they deserve.
Most of the volunteers at Harvest on a daily basis are food bank users, with some of the volunteers having been helping out for as long as 10 years.
when you talk to them, they express that that's the way to give back to our community, serving here in different capacities. For some of them, Harvest is their second home. They consider Harvest as their workplace. Even they don't get paid, the satisfaction of serving others through volunteerism is what they motivates them. We try to give them as much as we can, but also we need to share with more people that they need to have access to it. When you talk to those clients, some of these clients are still workers. They have full-time jobs, but unfortunately, it's not enough to sustain themselves and their families. So they have to rely on Harvest to have that extra boost in food. Some other cases, the people need specific dietary restrictions. So we cannot provide to all of them, unfortunately, because our donation is based on what we receive, and unfortunately, we don't have the means to support everyone. But it's upsetting seeing that even people with employment, they need to access a food bank when it should be focused on those who doesn't have the means.
Closed captioning is brought to you in part by the Sportsnet app. Breaking news, game highlights, streaming, and more.
10 years is a long time to wait for a sandwich. But this is not just any sandwich. McRib Mania, the legend returns.
Normal checking accounts sit there as you withdraw and pay fees.
Okay.
But EQ Bank is like a checking account without the fees and pays you high interest.
Could you have explained that without touching my food?
Nope, that would have been tough.
Hey, let's go somewhere beachy. I like sand. What about Cancun sand? Or Hawaiian sand? Or Caribbean white sand? Ooh, Costa Rican sand. It's got dolphins.
With over 50 sunny destinations to choose from, we have a flight for that.
Hit that pose, take that flick, check your angle, post that. Hit that pose, take that flick, check your angle, post that. Hit that pose, take that flick, check your angle, post that.
All new Coca-Cola Spiced. With an unexpected burst of raspberry and spice flavors.
Do you know what Contrave is?
I do.
Oh, and you know about Contrave's program, right?
I know everything about Contrave.
Contrave.
Yes, Contrave. Do you know what it is?
Nope.
Learn how to receive Contrave tablets at no cost.
Tourists. Tourists that turn into scientists. Tourists taking photos that are analyzed by AI. So researchers can help life underwater flourish.
Here we see a noble burrito eater in their natural habitat. With freshly made salsa and guac and a variety of protein options, the $7.99 burrito of the day is an important part of the burrito eater's diet. $7.99 burrito of the day at KSAR, limited time only.
It's the first of its kind. Conceived from the ground up to stir emotion. This is a luxury SUV built without compromise. The look, the sound, the feeling. Its power and design perfectly aligned. The new Mazda CX-90 Hybrid and Plug-in Hybrid. Now available at Jerry Gordon's Mazda.
I've been the Mazda dealer in Winnipeg for 45 years, and I've never seen a car quite like this. Right, guys?
Since Russia launched its illegal invasion of Ukraine back in February 2022, millions of displaced Ukrainians were forced to leave their homes, leave their country, and seek refuge outside of Ukraine. Countries like Canada have accepted Ukrainians with open arms. Over 220,000 Ukrainians have now called Canada home since the Canada-Ukraine Authorization for Emergency Travel, or the Kuwait program, was launched back in March of 2022. 25,000 of those Ukrainians have settled right here in Manitoba. And although right now it's a safe haven for them, it's been a challenge as they navigate their new lives. It's been 2 years since Russian President Vladimir Putin launched his special military operation, or accurately known as his full-scale, all-out war against Ukraine. Tens of thousands of people have been killed and millions have been displaced, forcing to flee to other countries around the world.
Well, it's been a nightmare. There's no other words. It's hard to put into words what the last 2 years have meant and what it's been like to live a daily reality of being bombarded by missiles, by drones, by war crimes, by rape, by torture. It is hell on earth in Ukraine right now, and that's been the case for the last 2 years, but it's also the last 2 years have been part of the last 10 years, a decade of aggression against Ukraine, of war, of breaking international law, undermining Ukrainian sovereignty, and threatening the entire world order and how the world functions. So that has been traumatic, not just for Ukrainians, but really anybody who believes in the rule of law and sovereignty of nations. But really on the human factor, it's really difficult to put into words what's gone on.
As of now, there are no signs of this war ending anytime soon, meaning more people will become displaced. According to Operation Ukrainian Safe Haven's latest report, approximately 70 to 90,000 Ukrainians are expected to arrive in Canada within the next few months, before emergency visas are set to expire at the end of March. Manitoba has been very welcoming to newcomers from Ukraine, but Nick Kravets, who has been an integral piece to helping settle the refugees, says it's been a challenge.
English, I would say, is the #1 challenge. That is a big determinant factor of someone's ability and how quick they're able to adapt and get into the workforce, find a job, put a roof over their head, pay the bills, and continue on kind of thing. So without English, it is very difficult, and the jobs that were initially offered that maybe did not have a high level of English proficiency have become less and less and less. They're harder to find. How does one choose between working, improving one's English, paying the bills, paying for daycare if you can find daycare or get on a spot in daycare? And this is even more complicated when you have multiple children.
With all of these factors, more newcomers from Ukraine are turning to food banks for help. In the Harvest Voices report, more than 1 in 4 food bank users in Manitoba at the time of the survey were newcomers to Canada. Ukrainian newcomers alone represented over half of all first-time food bank users in Winnipeg.
No, it's saddening. Again, one is fleeing war, trying to seek a safe haven for themselves or their children. And because of the one-time financial assistance, which is greatly appreciated, that one-time financial assistance it goes pretty quickly when you have to pay rent, pay for groceries, pay for whatever else they have to pay for. So it's not surprising in a way, but it's just it's disconcerting. Naturally, nobody wants to see anybody being forced or turned to do that, to support themselves, especially those that have fled war and come here trying to seek a safe haven. Yeah, I would encourage definitely anybody who's willing to contribute and donate to Manitoba Harvest and other food banks to do so. There are people in need for sure, and that's all compounded too by rising prices, inflation, and all that everybody's experiencing. So again, it's very disheartening and disappointing that number is what it is. But that's why it's so important that supporting Ukraine is the best option, because the sooner this war ends, the sooner people who want to go back can go back and restart their lives in safety.
As prices for rent, food, and gas continue to rise, so too could the number of Ukrainian newcomers relying on food banks every month. Karpa stresses the need to continue supporting those in need to prevent the number from worsening.
That's why it's so important that supporting Ukraine is the best option, because the sooner this war ends, the sooner people who want to go back can go back and restart their lives in safety. So again, if people are, if our government or others are promising aid that's not getting there in a year, 18 months, when Ukrainian lives are at stake and their way of life is dependent on that aid, it's so critical that that gets there. So I would say, if we want to help get the numbers down of Ukrainians specifically, then support Ukraine. Get the aid, get the financial assistance, get them what they need to end this war.